Why is that man still sitting there? The groom's voice cut through the wedding hall, sharp and cold. He's blocking the aisle. Someone move him. No one knew the quiet man in the wheelchair was about to change every life in that room. The hall froze in a single breath. The music had stopped. The bride stood stiff, her smile cracking like thin glass. At the center of the aisle sat a man in a dark suit, his hands folded, his legs still, his eyes lowered. He had arrived early, quietly rolling himself into the back row where no one would notice. But now the spotlight of shame burned on him. People stared. Some frowned. Others looked away. A few whispered with small laughs they would later regret. He did not speak. He did not move. The groom's impatience grew louder, heavier. "This is a private event," he said. "This is not a place for interruptions." The wedding planner rushed forward, her heels clicking like judgment, her smile tight with fear. "Sir, you need to leave." Now the man lifted his eyes. They were calm, tired, deep with something unspoken. He nodded once, but before he could turn his wheelchair, a small hand slipped into his, and everything began to change. The man's name was Elias Hart. Most people in the room saw only the chair, the metal frame, the still legs. They saw inconvenience, not history. Burden, not strength. They did not see the years carved into his face, or the quiet discipline in the way he held himself. They did not see the scars hidden beneath his suit, or the weight he carried in his chest. Every single day, Elias was invited because he had paid for half the wedding. No one knew that. He had not asked for thanks. He had not even asked for a seat near the front. He only wanted to watch, to witness a promise being made, to feel for one brief moment that he was part of something warm and living. But now, the room had decided he did not belong. Near the wall stood a young girl in a plain dress, holding a tray of folded napkins. She was the maid's daughter, brought along because her mother could not afford a sitter. She had been told to stay quiet, to stay invisible. Her name was Lila. She watched as adults looked through Elias like he was air. She watched the shame roll over him in waves he refused to show. She did not understand weddings, or money, or pride, but she understood one thing very clearly. This man was hurting. When the planner reached for the wheelchair handles, Lila stepped forward without thinking. Her fingers, small and warm, wrapped around Elias's hand. She looked up at him, her eyes wide and steady. "You can stay with me," she said softly. "You look lonely." The room went silent years earlier. Elias' heart had learned what true silence. It sounded like it was not quiet. It was ringing. It was the sound after an explosion. When the world kept moving but your body did not respond. He had been a soldier once. A calm one. The kind who listened more than he spoke. He joined not for glory, but because someone had to stand between danger and home. He believed in duty the way others believed in faith. On his final deployment, the air smelled of dust and fuel. The sun pressed down hard, unforgiving. His unit had been escorting civilians out of a damaged zone when everything changed. The blast came from nowhere. Light, heat, then nothing. When Elias woke, he could not feel his legs. He could feel the weight of his helmet, the ache in his spine, the absence where strength used to live. He could hear voices calling his name, fading in and out like waves. Pulling back from shore, two of his closest friends did not make it home. That knowledge stayed with him more than the chair ever did. Recovery was slow, painful, quiet. Hospitals smelled like soap and old air. Nights were long. The world moved on without him, fast and careless. People praised him in public and avoided him in private. He learned quickly that gratitude had a short life. But Elias rebuilt himself piece by piece. He invested wisely. He started companies no one expected him to run. He listened. He hired people others ignored. He became wealthy not out of hunger, but out of patience. Money never changed him. Silence taught him more than noise ever could. Back in the wedding hall, discomfort spread like a stain. The groom felt eyes turning toward him. He forced a laugh, sharp and brittle. "This is inappropriate," he said. "This is not a charity event," the bride's mother whispered urgently. Guests shifted in their seats. No one spoke up. No one wanted to be the first to challenge power dressed in confidence. Elias squeezed Leela's hand gently. "It's all right," he murmured, his voice low and steady. He had not spoken all day, but when he did, it carried weight. He began to turn his chair. Lila shook her head. "My mom says people don't leave when they're treated bad. They leave when they think they deserve it." Her words landed harder than any insult. The maid froze across the room, her face pale with fear. She rushed forward, apologizing, reaching for her daughter. "I'm so sorry, sir." "She doesn't know better." Elias looked at her then. Really looked. He saw exhaustion in her eyes. Pride barely holding itself together. "Years of being overlooked. She knows exactly what she's doing," he said. The groom scoffed. "Enough of this. Security." That was when the doors opened. No one noticed at first. A group of men and women entered quietly, dressed simply, moving with a shared purpose that did not need announcement. They stood along the walls, their posture straight, their expressions calm. One by one, they removed their jackets. Underneath were small pins, medals, insignia. The room shifted. Someone near the back gasped. Another stood slowly, recognizing something familiar. A ripple moved through the crowd as understanding dawned. Elias did not turn around. He did not need to. The first man stepped forward, his voice steady. "We are here for Elias Hart," the planner stammered. "I'm sorry. Who are you people, old friends?" the man replied. "Brothers, sisters?" The groom's face drained of color. Another voice followed. "Elias Hart funded our recovery center when no one else would. He paid for surgeries, for housing, for families." A woman stepped forward, her eyes bright with held-back tears. "He never asked for his name on the building." Silence filled the hall. Thick and heavy, Elias finally spoke. Not loud, not dramatic. "Please, this is their day." The first man shook his head. "Today's about respect." The groom opened his mouth, then closed it. Words failed him. Guests stood, one by one. Some with shame, some with awe. Chairs scraped softly against the floor. No one looked at the aisle anymore. All eyes were on the man they had dismissed. The bride's hands trembled. She stepped forward, her voice breaking. "I didn't know," she said. "I'm sorry." Elias met her gaze. His expression was kind, not proud. "Knowing isn't the same as seeing," he said. The groom swallowed hard. His power had vanished, not taken, simply revealed as empty. The maid covered her mouth, tears slipping free. Lila stood taller, still holding Elias's hand. He looked down at her and smiled. "You changed everything," he told her. She shrugged. "I just didn't want you to be alone." One of the veterans spoke again, his voice carrying through the hall. "We learned something from him. Silence is not weakness. It is control." Another added, "Some battles are won without raising your voice." Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He felt something loosen in his chest, a weight he had carried. Since the blast finally shifted, the wedding did continue, but not as planned. The groom apologized publicly, his words careful and humbled. The planner asked Elias where he would like to sit. Elias chose the back, but this time no one sat until he did. As vows were spoken, the room listened differently. Promises sounded heavier, more real. People understood that strength did not always stand tall. Sometimes it rolled quietly into a room and waited to be seen. When the ceremony ended, guests approached Elias not with pity, but with respect, with gratitude. With questions they had never thought to ask someone like him, the maid hugged her daughter tightly. Lila beamed, unaware of the ripple she had caused. Elias reached into his pocket and pressed something into her palm, a small pin, smooth, warm from his hand. "It's not for bravery," he said gently. "It's for kindness." She nodded like she understood everything. Later, as the hall emptied and the lights dimmed, Elias remained for a moment longer. He watched people laugh, embrace, reconnect. He felt present, fully, One of his old friends leaned close. "You all right?" Elias smiled softly. "I always was." As he rolled toward the exit, guests stood again, not out of obligation, but instinct. A silent corridor of respect opened for him. He passed through without stopping, because true honor does not pause to be admired. That day, a wedding became something else. It became a lesson about how easy it is to overlook quiet, strength about how dignity does not demand, attention about how a single act of kindness can expose a room full of truth. Elias' heart returned home to his quiet life, unchanged in the ways that mattered. Still calm, still observant, still silent when words were unnecessary. But everyone else carried the moment with them, and Lila grew up believing something unshakable, that no one is invisible unless you choose not to see them. If this story moved you, share where you're watching from. Tell us what moment stayed with you the most. And subscribe for more stories that honor silent strength, unseen courage, and the power of doing the right thing when no one expects it.